2024, Driving Business.
We'll be back from the break. It's 5 minutes past 8. You're still watching Smartman's Business. I'm Andrew Barije, and this morning here to drive your business. Well, right about now, as we're heading into the related discussions, I remember, like we say, like we told, we shall be having quite lots of people that are going to be coming in here to explain what the budget is. It's the budget day. It's a long-awaited day, and of course, it's the budget month. If you've been following on the show, we've been having discussions ever since this month began. Actually, we decided to dedicate it to the budget so that we have this detailed insight for any person, most especially the common person down there in the village, down there in the downtown, in the ghettos, in the streets, so that you get to understand what really the budget is. Well, before we get into another discussion, don't forget the markets on the Zabo platform, which are about to open. Actually, they will be opening at exactly 8:15 a.m. Now, you could be asking yourself a question: what should I do to be a part of this? Well, it's very simple. *292# is the USSD code for you there, and you'll be available with quite lots of options where you will be able to buy government bonds and securities for just as little as 15,000 Ugandan shillings. But well, it's okay. You can invest more than that. But Zabo simply says, well, bring 15,000. Let's grow together and make some good money for yourself. Like I always say, this is one of the ways you can earn yourself a side income. You never know, as a trader out there, you could offset. You could be having some sorts of trade deficits that you might have incurred. Now, this could be one of the ways to offset those deficits by trading stocks. Now, Zabo made this a reality. There is no excuse as why I shouldn't own bonds in such a time. Now, Zabo says, my money, my future, and Altec East Africa simply tells you, do something new. Well, right about now, I'm joined with Claire Atkunda. She's the programs manager, Food Right Alliance, and we're going to be having further discussions in relation to the budget, and she's going to be giving us, what anticipations, and above all, we shall be evaluating the previous budget. Very good morning, Claire. You're welcome on the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm Claire from Food Rights Alliance, as earlier mentioned.
Yeah.
And Food Rights Alliance is a coalition of about 40 organizations working to promote the right to food in Uganda. The right food in Uganda. We are happy to be here.
Thank you.
Yes.
Now, of course, it's the long-awaited day. It's today. Actually, most people, it was supposed to be yesterday, but it was pushed.
Yes.
And it's quite unusual. Anyway, there are various reasons why things are done that way. But anyway, before we even look at this budget, I want us to rewind back 2023, 14th June, when the previous national budget was read. Let's take a look at how we've seen, have the priorities of that time, according to your observation, do you think they have been really met to the maximum? Because looks like we're still seeing people jobless. We're still seeing people, taxes are still, something is not right. Our debt is increasing. We are in raids already. So, I want to understand how unique this budget is going to be as compared to the other one. The other one was 48 trillion. Now we have a 52.7 trillion budget.
Okay. And the last financial year was interesting. Very much. We had about, like you said, 48 trillion shillings. Yeah. But also, and we also looked at the gross domestic product that was about 5.3.
5.3, yeah.
And then, but when we look at the income that is in the people, when you look at income poverty, it is still very, very high.
Yeah, very true.
And still, also we look at inflation that we had over the last year, which rose up to like 9.7, and we look at things like fuel prices. Look at food prices that rose up all over the last year. So if you will ask me, has the budget for the last financial year met the needs of the people? I would say no. I would say no, because we still have education system. We have seen what has been happening in the education system. We have seen the medical field and the health, what has been happening in health. So we have all these issues. And then when you come to now like agro-industrialization, you look at food insecurity crisis. Food insecurity, true. That came along. So there have been all these factors that have really accumulated to say that the budget, yes, was there, but it did not meet the needs of the common person. Yes.
And now, of course, a number of Ugandan out there could be asking themselves, when shall we even ever, what do we need to do for us to have a successful budget? I mean, it comes and it really, at least we have some degree of success. It may not be entirely, but at least let's have a 60% success.
Okay, maybe we could start this discussion from actually this budget that we see right here.
Yes.
When we say we are having 52.7 trillion shillings in the budget, what do you think? Do you think all that money is what is given to the entities to actually implement the activities?
So some entities don't get the actual.
No, it is more like of the 52.7 billion, over 53% is actually going to debts. Uganda, we have a very, very high debt burden. So about, you realize, and I think when they read the budget, that we are only having about 25 trillion to use, which means all the other money is either going to the debts, the interest rates, Bank of Uganda reimbursements, all these. So this money is not actually what is brought down to the ministries, to the different nations. So that is one thing. So of course, as now we look at trickling down, when now we have cut off now the first part of the budget already is used. When now we go to the 25 point something trillion that is now going to the ministries, how much is going to reach to local government? Because if you look at local government and what it has been given, what we anticipate about 5 trillion, that is like 10%. So that is going to local government. Then when it trickles down, so you see, decentralization is not as magnified as we look at it when we say we have 52.7 trillion.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting. I mean, for a person that is seeing in there, you could be probably having a picture of what you can anticipate when it comes to decentralization. But of course, as you dwell deeper, you get to understand things are not actually working out like how they ought to. Now, looking at that, human capital development, when you look at the budget, seems to be taking a very high perspective for this year, 2024. And I see security and governance. But anyway, let's first dwell our eyes much more on human capital development. Why is it necessary for us in such a time?
In a time when we see the health sector crumbling. We have seen strikes from interns.
Medical interns.
We have seen challenges in the health sector. Some hospitals are not working. They are not facilitated. Staffing is still low. And human capital development, knowing that it houses Ministry of Health, houses Ministry of Education. And we have had issues with the Ministry of Education for a long time. And also looking at our courses that are expired.
By the way, the deputy, anyway, first finish, I'll get to that.
So we have so many ministries that are benefiting from human capital development. And I think that is why they are prioritizing to have the lion's share of this budget.
Human capital development, at some point I look at it from this aspect of, skilled. Equipping people, this aspect, the capital, because as compared to our education system, when you mentioned something about expired degrees, actually the Deputy Speaker of Parliament came out and said, they should stop using that word expired. Or else the National Council for Education should actually say we under-review the courses, because because most of the universities claim that they have updated curriculums. They updated up to date. It's the National Council for Education that did take initiative to come and evaluate
the
courses. But anyway, Because now, if we are to look at, because now Uganda, before we think of Africa-wide aspect, you know, competing to the African globe, now we have the intra trade that is coming up. We need to first be champions at the East African community in various aspects. Well, how do we stand when it comes to human labor, to human capital development, if we are to compare ourselves to the neighboring countries, you know, and which countries in particular can we benchmark policies which are related to human capital development? As much as we have given it a high priority on the budget, if we don't have the right understanding of what it takes to execute it, it might go in vain. I'm thinking.
Okay. True, and I'm not saying that all East African countries are already there. We are all in the struggle together. But of course, you look at countries like Kenya and how they have developed and their education system, and of course, we look at things like. Looking at this, I like the Tanzanian way of doing things, especially in the health sector.
Yeah.
But that is my opinion as a person.
Tanzania, okay.
Yes.
How do they do it?
But okay, going back just a little bit.
Yeah.
Going back to human capital development, it is that it is not more that if we look at the previous budgets, human capital development has been taking, if not say maybe the first or the second largest share of the budget, or like the third, it's always prioritized. Yeah. But the problem with Uganda is our accountability system.
Okay.
That even when this money comes, nobody goes to follow up to say, is this money actually doing what it is intended? Supposed to
that
do?
Is true.
Are they monitoring? Are they doing reviews to see if it is the education system? Is it reaching the schools that are supposed to get that money? When we look at the schools in UPE, are they getting what they're supposed to get?
Yeah.
Are the teachers getting what they're entitled to?
Okay.
So it is that we embark on and say, even if we give them the highest share, if there are no credible accountability systems to actually tell people, you know what, you must account for every shilling, because this is taxpayers' money.
That is true. Yeah, that is true.
We must make sure that we have excellent accountability systems that can actually be put in place to strengthen this money, to strengthen reporting, monitoring, how these programs are actually implemented.
Okay, actually, you're very right on that. Now, actually, pointing out to the UPE aspect, I remember the president said that this year they're going to be strict when it comes to, you know, some of these UCE schools actually charge the students' money, UPE.
True.
You know, if you try to look into these aspects. But then I'm asking myself, and you know, there is this whole aspect which we need to know that UCE is a universal program. It's not just in Uganda. So many other countries actually have these programs. It's a UN-based program. And we see that if we are to look at these countries that we look up to, their UPE systems, their USC systems are entirely dependent on funds. And I mean, there is absolute accountability. Do you really think it is, anyway, before even thinking, what do you really, why do you think it's being driven this way, whereby now students, the people whom we think need to be helped, are now being charged money? I mean, you'll be shocked when you find out what a household in the rural setting of a UCE pays vis-a-vis even the household of a UCE or UPE in the urban sector on an annual basis. You'll be shocked, primary and secondary.
Yes. Because it is always about demand and supply. Yeah. If the government would do its role, then and actually fulfill its commitments, then we wouldn't have people or communities or parents chipping in. But if you want your child to study and you see the government is not doing its role, what are you supposed to do? And of course we know, this is Uganda we are talking about. Sure. There is corruption everywhere. So even when children are not supposed to be charged, they are charged
by the headmistresses of those schools.
And what is a common parent down there supposed to do when you want your child to go to school? So all these are really factors that factor in, and you find that yes, even when the maybe the policy environment or the legal environment says children are not supposed to pay, but those are not the dynamics down there. And of course, as we look at the budget and analyze it, these are things we are supposed to talk about.
Okay.
That why is it that some students are still paying school fees even when UP is supposed to be? And I know that it's not like free. There is a certain amount that is supposed to be paid, a little amount from parents, but even when you come now like to secondary schools in Uganda that are even government led,
very true.
The fees are very, very high.
It's like
exceptional high. It's like
for
private.
A university student.
Yes.
But they're in secondary. It's very shocking.
So all those are factors that you look at and you're like, is this really UPE? Are we having universal education here? Or it's just in word but not in action?
Okay, very, very, very interesting. And maybe if you look at this budget for this year, 52.7 trillion, I always have this mindset of thinking, it's like if you plant a seed in the ground and you're planting it in a land that is not tilled, well, you have the good seed, but you've planted it, it may never grow. Now, if I look at the current, now I'm looking at the economy of Uganda from that perspective of, okay, you're going to put this money. Okay, we said half of that might go into clearing dates. Now, assuming the other 21 something which is left there. Do you really think it's settling into a structure that is reformed, that it will be able to handle this? Because I believe it matters. It's like you say you're going to give people a fund to get them out of poverty, and people are using this fund to buy new houses, to buy second wives. So let's look at I'm looking at Uganda from that perspective, from all institutions, all frameworks. I mean, how is the standing like?
Let's get an example of PDM that is current, the hot cake today.
Exactly.
How is Uganda prepared to actually implement the PDM? We have injected a lot of money. A lot of it. But how is Uganda prepared? And I will give you a snapshot. When you look at, you have 7 pillars of the parish development model, and you have one pillar that is working right now, financial inclusion. But when you look at the PDM structure, how it was structured, it was that we would strengthen people through the other pillars, and then this money would come later to actually facilitate these strengthened systems. When you look at pillar 1 on agro-industrialization and production, you look at things like mindset change. But you find that the money has come before the people are empowered. So
that is an issue.
If they don't know what to use the money for, what should they do? They will eat it, and by the end, and then it will be called per diem. And by the time the other pillars, remember to actually say, let's come and now reach down to the last person, money will not be there. And these are the accountability systems that we are talking about. Are people capacitated to actually utilize this money?
That is
is the government does the government even have capacity? Have they trained themselves to actually utilize this money?
That is my
that is the issue. Like if you know your hot cake, the number one priority PDM is, even according to how this small analysis, it doesn't show any hope of success.
And men have been arrested of corruption in the shortest time.
So what do you expect? And without that, the problem with accountability, without that, we shall continue to have these discussions forever. And they always seem to be the same discussions we have for this country, Uganda. Well, it's 23 minutes past 8 with Claire Atkunda, Programs Manager, Food Right Alliance, and of course we are shedding some lights of the budget before it's going to be read out today. Of course, there is already a bill that is out, the appropriation bill, and nothing's going to change about it, but we just having further insights in relation to that. Well, before we get into the break, don't forget the markets on the Zabo platform, which will be opening. Actually, as I speak right now, they have already opened, because they open at 8:15 a.m. and they're going to be running up to 3:15 p.m. They open at 8:15 a.m. running up to 3:15 p.m. East African time, effective Monday up to Friday, except from the weekends and the public holidays when you can access this market. Well, but at least you have the rest of the 5 days to capitalize on these markets and make some money for yourself. And one of the ways you will be able to earn a side income. You don't need a smartphone. You don't need
any phone actually can work. If you have a smartphone, it's okay. If you have a button phone, it's okay. The only aspect that you need to have in your mind is that *292# is the code for you. And regardless of what part of the country you're located at, you'll be able to buy these bonds. Now, Zabo simply says, buy money, my future. And All East Africa tells us, do something new. Well, at 24 minutes past 8, let's get into the break. And of course, I'll be still returning with Claire. We're still shedding further light in relation to the budget. But of course, you can also engage us on our Twitter handles. What do you really think? Do you really think that the 52.7 trillion, we are ready to execute it? Are our structures ready to handle such amounts of money and distribute them efficiently like how they ought to? You can engage us into those discussions further. We shall be glad to see your comments in there. Now let's get into the break. We shall be returning.